So glad to be here. I am Andy Kabirdasu, and here to talk about the future of marketing in an AI world. And yeah, so glad to be here. So thank you for taking time to be in this keynote. The easiest thing for me when people ask me to do the keynote, would have been easier for me is to come and talk about data orchestration layer on one of the applications that we did recently, and just speak about it and how it works, what it does. But then I kind of sat through and thought for should I just take on the journey of where AI is taking over and how different industries are adapting to that, and more particularly from a marketing perspective. So there's on the agenda, I kind of spoke about, kind of put through what is the state of tech currently, the speed at which things are moving, so the adoption becomes a very key proposition for us. And then touch upon a little around, what's happening in AI for marketing, how is agentic frameworks and stuff that are taking over in the day-to-days, and how it's creating the new breed of workforce. And then, but then also want to do a bit of a brain stimuli around, what are the provocations that we need to think through, in terms of not just the AI adoption, but also the changing economy, changing world in terms of, where the world is heading to. So I think I've plotted in 7 provocations that we are thinking, but then I think for a takeaway would be to think about how this impacts your industry or your verticals, etc. With that, from a state of tech perspective, the overall AI market size is imploding, right? Currently, right now in 2005, there's about $243-ish billion US dollars is the market size for AI, but in 2030 we are expecting it to be 4x, right? So the services, the products, the day-to-days, the AI agents, think about anything and everything. The market share in AI is growing much faster. And I think, so I was in one of those AI workshops in Mountain View where we're talking about different changes that has happened in the last decade or last millennium. This is the AI transformation is the massive one, the speed at which this is happening, right? So it's kind of very important to kind of think that if this is going to, the market share is going to be 4x, what does that mean to me? And what does that mean to the vertical that I'm on? And of course, there's no surprise. The big techs, the Amazons, the Metas, the Alphabets, and Microsoft are spending heavily year on year on their AI program, right? And as you can see, over the last 4 or 5 years, Amazon has been has been the market leader in their AI strategy, or spending their money on. And I'm sure some of you went to the Google Next, the Microsoft conferences where they're kind of talking about what is the AI program and what are they working on, etc. But then the investment has been significantly in AI. The good news for us is the AI adoption has been phenomenal, right? So ChatGPT, it took 2 months for 100 million users, right? But then if you sprint along the way, there's Spotify, there's Netflix, Airbnb. Took 11 years, 10 years on average. And then even the latest ones where, I think TikTok, which took 2 months. So this is great. So this kind of proves the theory on neuroplasticity, how the brain adapts to new things that's coming in and how we could use it for the things that we do, right? So this is great news that, the speed of adoption is good. And then I also want to touch upon, the world of software as SaaS, how it's evolving. When I was a programmer, when I was coding, right, there was an input, there was an output, and along the way there was some predictive models that were built, and a system of record was created. So, again, there's LTV models, churn prediction, right, whatever propensity models that you guys use in your businesses. And slowly moving from that, what's happening today is your input data is no more structured data, right? It could be PDFs, it could be photos, it could be images, it could be videos, right, Those could be adding stimuli into your model building. And then an agent orchestration layer that's been brought in, and then it kind of then creates different model streams for it to comprehend, which then creates an output, right? But what the future is, when I say future, few companies are already on this journey, right? Starting with the autonomous driving vehicle, the self-driving cars, etc. There are some organizations in the UK are adapting to a multi-agent architecture model where there's an agent that looks after each of the data sources and then kind of makes it, makes run the process end to end. And what that means is the the decision making of AI models are getting closer and closer in terms of like where it can make. You still need human in the loop. It's not like AI is going to do something, but then there are some certain things where you don't need heavy lifting and shifting of data, analyzing it, curating it, building your semantic layers. That will be significantly taken care of, right? And again, I don't want to touch much upon this, but then the digital devices and data are ubiquitous. And as you can see, right, I don't know who your broadband provider is, but then right now, recently we're changing some broadband for a better speed. And then I was looking at all the devices that was connected in my house. And then back in the days, it was probably a personal computer and then maybe your mobile phone. But now there's laptops, there's iPads, there's fridge, there's washing machines. That, each of them has got like Wi-Fi connection in it. So what it means is it's creating more and more data, right? And then so the global data generated annually, that is exploding significantly. So you can almost think about from a statistician's perspective how you can start mapping things out when and if you have to build models, of course GDPR compliant. So far I've been touching upon the state of tech, just to give a quick flavor of how things are happening and how fast that they're moving, right? So what's happening in marketing, right? Again, I'm if I were to oversimplify marketing, right? I'm guess it's kind of like what's the right spend for a CMO, and who are they targeting, how they're targeting, and what they're targeting it for, right? So it's kind of like finding your perfect brief with the perfect audiences. What insights do I have of these audiences? And then what contents do I generate for these audiences? And where should I serve them? Is it a TV ad? Is it an out-of-home ad? Or is it a digital ad, et cetera, right? So if I have to super broadly simplify this, where there's two hands, right? One is around media planning, where what budgets do I have? What channels do I spend my dollars on? So every dollar that I spend on each of the channels, where is the maximum optimum? And then there's a synergy effect where, if I have something on TV and then at the same time I'm putting something on YouTube and other channels, what does that synergy reach curves looks like to get the value for the best buck? And then the other side is the creative angle, right? What creative production do I do? How do I build the best ads? What are things that I need to consider in making the ad? And then also from a creative perspective, there is static images, dynamic content, and then there's videos that you kind of see as thing. And then the connected media is kind of like, how do I bring that together, right? How do I bring, how am I getting the audiences and then putting them into the right channel, servicing the right ads at the right time. So then there is a spectrum of KPIs that we can measure, both top funnel and bottom funnel. So from that perspective, right? Most of the agencies are figuring out, should we build end-to-end workflow models where we can automate the workflow. So, so if I were to very briefly talk about an end-to-end process, it kind of starts with a client sending the brief, and then from the brief, you then go and generate your insights, and from insights, you build your audiences, strategy, block plan, implementation plan. The process goes on all the way through to activation. So imagine building an agentic workflow where you can upload the brief on a portal, and then the transcription happens on the back end through an LLM, where it captures all the brief parameters into one central form, right? So what this means is it cuts out the middleman in terms of making assumptions, but then with the human still in the loop to verify, double check, if it's all captured, et cetera, et cetera. And then once the brief is done, all you're then doing is creating an agent to point into a research agent, right? Research agents could be sitting on top of any data sources that you want. So, typically, I don't know, right? YouGov, I don't know if you know that as a data set, right? It's a syndicated panel data set where we get syndicated panel results on a daily basis. An agent can go synthesize the data and then be ready for you to chat to it to bring the results out. But then the briefing agent tells the research agent, I'm looking for this brief, can you get me that insight, right? So automatically, that's worked out in the back end, and 15 seconds later, 20 seconds later, the insight's there, and for you to, it's served on, and then for you to now consummate whether do I want to use this insight or not, right? And then this could be the case for any data sources that can be plugged into the back end. currently, day in the life of a planner or a strategist in media agencies is they look up to 15 to 20 different data sources. They physically, manually go into to curate those insights. And then yeah, so it's like, but then now you are still making decisions in terms of, is it the right insight? Can I, make more prompting, make my, my research better? But then it's happening synchronously, right? And then the next one is generating audiences, right? Based on the analysis that I've done so far, if there is an audience data set, both first-party data, i.e. your client data set with CRM results, or industry data sets that we have, like Experian, our Publicis got Publicis ID, where you kind of look at ID level, what attributes and what are they in market for. Again, the agents from brief and research are pushing that here. So there's a context to, right? I'm looking for, I don't know, Sky as my client, right? And people moving houses in the next 12 months as an example for prospecting, right? So Sky can go on target for their prospects. So now that is talking to an audience data set which gives signals or flags that says that these are IDs that are predicted to move houses the next 12 months. And then, so now you're kind of like collecting your audiences, right? And then I can talk through the whole process where, you kind of use. So there's like few applications, and then this is on the media side. And from the creative side, imagine, building an annotation layer where you pass your videos or images, and then the annotation layer, what it does is it extracts all the features from the video or the static image, right? This could be people present in the video ad, the colors, the logos, what's said, the music, the attention on the screen where people look at, celebrities being in the video ad, right? I think the last time, one of the announcements we did, we used up to like 478 different features that we could extract from video ads. But then linking that to a performance data set or a brand data set. So this is the click-throughs, view-throughs as performance, and branding would be awareness or consideration. So how do you then you build a predictive model to say what features in the video ad contributed to the performance uplift or a brand uplift, right? So then you're kind of getting a bit of things to do, things not to do as kind of like, like codes to send to the production team to make the next video ad. But then since LLMs and Gen AI came a thing, when OpenAI came, I think last year, suddenly now we can send those insights into a Gen AI to create the next breed of videos, right? So again, it won't be perfect. It's not perfect, right? It takes a lot of time to curating, but then it does 70%, 80% of things that you're supposed to do, right? So suddenly the efficiency gain and the effectiveness gain is, is growing up. So given that, there's things in play in media world around like, how do we use agentic AI in terms of the workflow to bring in innovation, be future ready, bring efficiency and effectiveness. I thought that, we'll spend fair time in the next part of it around provocations, right? You saw the speed at which things are moving, and we are on the boat in terms of transformation, but then the time we make the boat into a ship, would it be still relevant, right? So then that's the important question that we need to ask ourselves, right? So this is just us anticipating with the things that we have been seeing, with the people that we've been speaking, what are some things that will happen, and then, again, I'm not over-solutionizing this, but just a thought ponder, and then I don't know, I couldn't give a probabilistic score on this, but then yeah, just bear with me. 7 provocations. I will go. Yeah. So the browser will get rebooted, right? I don't want to give away my age, but then as computer PC was becoming a thing, Google search, Bing were becoming a thing. I used to see a lot of people going straight to google.co.uk or google.com to type in whatever they want to, right? They were not putting the search on the bar, right? So suddenly evolution happened. Then Chrome, Safari, what they did was they moved their search bar into the console, right? Back in the days when some of you weren't born, the internet window was, you need to type your website, right? You needed www. whatever, right? So that was one of the first things that happened. But now, what of late I'm seeing is a bunch of people are going straight into OpenAI, right? ChatGPT, and then that's where they're doing the research, right? So what this means to businesses, right? So there's going to be a big shift in UI. So, and I believe that it's not going to be another device. I feel like we're carrying enough devices right now with us. So it is going to be a new browser. As you see, OpenAI is now launching a native AI browser. Walmart and Amazon are redesigning their sites to be agentic first, and then imagine an agent that moves seamlessly from comparison sites to social to retail. Like, we subconsciously do that right now, right? Like I'm going on a holiday to Italy, right? And then you're kind of now prompting to say that what are the things that you need in your prompt, right? Your subconscious is doing that, and now that will become more and more from what products and services will look like. But it's also very interesting because all the LLMs have been trained on website data, right? But now, as in more and more people are using LLMs and not the web engines, I guess how the data curation would be on from an LLM recommendation perspective. So what? I think we are moving from a manual navigation to an agentic delegation. The new browser becomes your concierge, searching, comparing, filtering, and buying on your behalf, right? And also, like, I would have thought this might happen in 2030, but I feel like this is now a year thing or less, right? And the second prediction is around AI will eat the mid funnel, right? By that, people will stop doing their own research. They'll name brands. They like to be at the top. Let AI shortlist in the middle, and then they pick up the winner at the bottom. Again, the classic consideration phase is being outsourced to AI agents. So 60% of the people already use AI in their shopping journey. It's either you doing your due diligence or some of the portals are pushing you through to, right? And then users will also have a few brand preferences, then trust AI to shortlist it for them. 50% of people have brought items on AI recommendations, right? Like, Amazon's like more and more stealthy in terms of pushing through what I needed to buy based on my purchasing behavior and my demographic profile. And research is no longer active, it's reactive. So AI-assisted shopping is 40% faster than the browser, right? Which is so true because, with so many products, it kind of also like, with the neurodivergent, it's kind of become very hard for us to have an attention span on a website. And this is very true on your holiday, when you're booking for your holidays. I don't know how much of you struggle, right? There's so many things. How are you booking your hotel rooms, right? Like, there's so many options. And then after a few minutes, you're like, but imagine, like, I think a couple of holiday companies without naming, I think, they're now working on an interface which might be actually live. You can just type in what you like and preferences, and then it'll go and construct your holiday plan. And you can also put on your budgets, etc. Right? And so what? AI flips the marketing logic. Top of funnel, it creates awareness so people mention you to the AI. And then from a mid-funnel perspective, make sure the AI recommends you back. And then from bottom funnel, surface enough proof points for the customers to choose you. The third provocation is around social becoming a fan fiction and not a fact anymore, right? Social platforms will stop being platforms for trust, truth, or connection. Instead, they'll double down on being frictional entertainment engines. Again, you must be seeing this often. My Instagram always shows this to me. I don't know why. It keeps listening to me all the time too. AI-generated content is already flooding, right? 90% online content will be generated by AI in 2026. There was some pushbacks by a few agencies around, a few companies around watermarking, we can't do this, etc. But then the governance policies have moved on, so which means this will become more and more relevant. Hyperreal video tools like VO3, Imagen, DALL-E make it impossible to tell what's real sometimes. Right now, the latest version of VO3 or the alpha version of VO4, it's very hard to kind of say whether it was AI generated or generated by actual HD portals. And then smart brands will appeal to both, right? 68% of people can't spot an AI influencer. And also, sometimes it's also, I get a lot of connection requests on both LinkedIn and Instagram. And then you do a quick review. It's very hard to say that is it an actual human being behind or is it AI generated, right? So what? Social won't die, it'll just change. It will feel more like you're watching a movie or a fan fiction catching up with friends. People won't go there for information or facts. They'll just use for entertainment. Although I feel also the Gen Z, some of them are like, their shopping patterns are changing significantly. Looking at things like Instagram, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that was not a thing, right? Your consideration was not changing much. But then we can now seeing like, escapes where, that graph is booming. Fourth is around B2C lessons from B2B. So the best way to win in a world of AI agents is to think like a B2B marketeer, right? In B2B sales, it's not just about influencing the CTO, but also like working through the hierarchy. So 54% of B2B buying involves one additional approver, right? And then the number goes significantly higher as you go through the hierarchical chain. And in B2C, the human is still the buyer, but AI is doing the shortlisting for you. 58% of people say that they happily use AI for recommendations. And smart brands will appeal to both, right? 6% of people still want control of their purchase. And again, this is kind of very interesting because when you see that through the eyes of the US versus UK, EMEA, and different regions, it's a significant percentage towards the Pacific side, so the transatlantic. So the US is like significantly higher, and then the graph dies down, but then as you go up Asia, it kind of like significantly booms up again, higher up again, which I think is interesting. But then the new norm, with all the investments going in, with all the adoption coming in, with how our neuroplasticity work, in the next 2 years, that number will be propping up a bit more, right? So what brand needs to have two strategies. One, to influence the emotional, irrational human being, so keep the pulse of us. But then they also need to convince the logic-driven AI. What's fed into your LLMs, and how do we get the gear onto us, right? The next one is around voice in, visuals out. I was walking in, and then Kibula was already talking to me, and they were already telling me that they have a data agent where you can talk to the agent, and then it'll get you insights, right? I think they are doing a soft launch tomorrow. Maybe I burst the bubble, or later today. Sorry. But the future interface for internet will be voice to vision, voice inputs from the user, and visual outputs from AI. Multimodal is the new normal. This was also interesting, right? So I was in Texas for a couple of years, some 6-7 years ago. And the amount of people that use Siri as a normal thing on public places was mind-blowing, right? They will just pick up their phone, tell Siri to send an email out, set reminders, right? They were like very happy with it, like, and then the number of people that was doing was like, but then come to UK or France, people don't talk, right? People don't, I hardly see anyone in a train or tube talking to their Siri. However, Echo came in, right? Amazon's Echo or Google's Home or Nest. People are very comfortable with it to do that in the house, right? They're ordering Amazon shopping in the house. But then, I don't know if it's a cultural barrier or it is, I don't know, right? Is it, I used to work in banking. I don't know if it's like the theft mechanism. I don't know what stops people to do that. But then it's significantly different between, they're happy to talk to Siri or something on a car, on a closed, confined space, but not in front of people or not outside the house, right? But again, now you'll have more and more options of chatting to AI assistants and agents. So what's happening? People don't want to scroll or click. They want to say and see. 80% of shoppers prefer voice commands over clicks. And again, this is kind of like a huge split between the age groups, right? Where the younger generations are more and more happy on listening, and I guess it's an attention span. I have this problem personally where watching Netflix, right? I can't do it post-COVID, right? And I get like very impatient of like fast tracking. So I'm like a 1.5x or 2x when I'm watching something. And then I was recently speaking to a few friends, and it's a thing, right? It's becoming a problem. Our attention spans, like, we are now, the brain's like fast track to, I can predict what's coming next, so I want to see the next thing. Or there's an awkward thing that I don't want to see, that I want to see this thing, right? And then audio responses are too long and slow. There's a reason why we say a picture's worth 1,000 words. We process about 60,000 images faster than text. And Gen AI, like OpenAI, Sora, or Google Veo, will answer queries visually. Where again, like I think you're now using the Google app where you can take a photo of something and you can ask questions, right? Sometimes I do that in the garden where there's a flower or a plant. You take, or you're in a new city, or looking at some monuments. You can take a picture, and then it kind of tells you the history. So you don't have to pay for your audio guide, I guess. 40 million videos made with VO3 in the last 2 months. So what? Intent-driven visual curation. So users say, show me outfits for a beach wedding, either under 100 pounds. And then AI shows 5 hyper-personalized looks inspired by trending styles on social, directly connected to the product pages, right? And this happens today. It also happens on when you buy a furniture, a car, like, is it Peloton, the bike? It also has like a feature where you can literally see where you can fit that in your house, right? So it's more and more adaptive, just that we need to see that. And then the next one is gaming as the gateway to AI relationship, right? I'm sure there are like lots of gamers in this forum here. Gaming will drive AI adoption. It always has been. Fundamentally rewire how people emotionally connected with virtual personas. So what's happening? Gamers already form friendships with people they've never met. They never know purely through their voices, avatars, and usernames. And 72% of the kids game with people they've never met in person, right? And psych studies show that once people play games with robots or AI, they start to treat them as alive and not just tools, right? Again, influencer marketing, rings bells here. 7x more likely to view a robot as human after playing games. And then finally, gamers will quickly forge connections with AI avatars, seeing as no different to other people in their team. Again, 70% already follow an AI-generated character. But now, again, as I said, there are AI avatars everywhere. LinkedIn, Instagram, like you name it, right? And then gaming is not just a tech frontier, it's a psychological one. All companies, NPCs, and brand avatars will feel more human than anywhere. We've already seen this like Darth Vader AI in Fortnite, where players genuinely sad to see him go at the end of the season, right? Emotional connect on AI avatars. And the final one, the blockchain is the new black, right? So blockchain will make a comeback, but not as a tech trend. It will re-emerge as a cultural flex, way for the ultra-rich to prove what's real and what's happening. Anyone can fake a private jet, a Rolex, or a World Cup trip using AI. I mean, there are like apps that you can pay for like £1 a pop, and then you can generate like one of the things that I used was to take up my snapshot for a professional picture rather than going and sitting in some booth. I paid this app which took a photo, and then it was pretty cool, right? 70% of I think there was some. There's a huge problem for luxury buyers who are motivated by social status of exclusive products, right? 65% of luxury brands use digital provenance tagging, and then gamers will quickly forge. Oh no, that's something's happened there. So what? In ledgers we trust, blockchain will become the trust layer for those in pursuit of exclusivity, not for crypto and virtual collectibles, but in high fashion, real-world events and exclusive brand experiences. Thank you.